I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, August the 15th. And already this week we've noticed that the farmer feeders are not quite as prevalent as they were last week. Last week they were running around all over the country. Every place you talked to had sightings of seed corn caps and bib overalls and guys coming down from the Midwest there. But this week the orders might be there, but they're not there themselves, and they're sure not quite as aggressive as they were last week. I tell you where they're at. They're at home, they've got their power washers out, they've got their grease guns loaded, and they are already getting ramped up for harvest. I've said it 1,000 times, there's nothing a farmer would rather do than farm. And if you guys know some of them, they just love it. And once harvest starts, once the first combine pulls out in the field, you won't get them to even maybe feed their cattle. They'll get somebody else to feed their cattle. They don't want to fool the cattle when they're farming. They'd rather do that than anything else. And they've already got things concentrated on getting ready for harvest. They might have a few days left before the kids have to go to school. They're having them help them around, but they're getting ramped up and making sure everything's ready to go for harvest, and it's already getting close to that time. But let's look at the board for Tuesday. October live cattle up 57 cents to end the day at 108.72. August up 77 to 107.97. Kind of nice to have an up day, even though it's not nearly as big as our down days, but we got to take a little bit back once in a while. October feeder cattle down a nickel, 148.90, but August spot feeder cattle up 27 cents at 148.92. And one thing that's interesting, if you look at the feeder board, all the traded months that go all the way out till May of 2019, there's only $1.65 that spread between all of them, from the lowest to the highest. And if we didn't have March in there, there would only be $1. So all your feeder cattle are looking to be about the same price, and that's based on an 800-pound steer. But you look at the live cattle, it goes out to next October. It's a $9.35 spread between the lowest and the highest, with April, of course, always usually the highest, and our spot month the lowest. So we do have good things to look forward to. We're looking like we're going into a bull run here as we get going, and we've just got to get through the rest of this month and probably half of September, and then we'll get through the worst of this sludge pit, or these big heavy numbers on show lists of market ready cattle that we've been dreading for a long time. But hey guys, we're on the downhill slide of them now, and got good things to look forward to. Just don't let any more of the market position get away than we already have. But let's look at your fat cattle trade so far this week. We have seen a little bit of trade. We've seen on Monday about 1,700 head of cattle sell, mostly in Iowa. Of course, that's where those guys have to sell their cattle. They're not aligned with a packer like most every other place. But live sales from 108 to 109, dress sales from 173 to 174, about another 1,000 on Tuesday morning from 108 to 110 and 173. So, you know, we're looking at possibly a lower market, but if the board would quit pounding on things and kind of stay on the uphill slide, maybe we can kind of hold things together. But we're seeing, talking to some of the feeder cattle buyers out there, there's a lot of guys that have put away a lot of silage. There's certain areas, a lot of areas in northern Missouri, southern Iowa, northern Kansas, places like that, where they've had their crop was so damaged and dry that a lot of them went ahead and chopped it down and made silage on it. Some of the silage is not going to have enough grain in it to hardly be any good for feed. But you know, we're looking at another bumper crop. We've done such a good job with these hybrids and things that there's enough places that have had adequate moisture Some of the corn has been challenged, and sometimes that makes it even better. You remember your grandma always out beating the tomato plants with a broom. Sometimes when you challenge it a little bit and it gets dry in spots, but then gets some timely rain, it ends up being better than if it just rained all summer long. But there has been a lot of silage put away, a lot of guys trying to buy some big calves and some yearlings too to feed that silage too. You can do a calf pretty good. You slow feed it on silage, and that's some of your highest quality cattle that you can feed. I know when I was out east in Pennsylvania for 3 years, they would buy a 5-weight steer calf and put him on silage and slow feed him for a year, and something was wrong if he didn't grade prime. And a lot of your guys and your farmer feeders in the Midwest are figuring that out too. But we've got a $6 spread between our April live board and the June. It's always big, but we're looking at maybe getting in here to probably late fall, November, especially December, maybe into January on your commercial lots that feed them a little bit faster. We could see a pretty good feeder cattle market there to hit that high April board on your fats. Then of course, like every year, it's going to fall off big time going April to June. But on your calf deal, guys are getting pretty excited about buying lighter calves too. The wheat is not yet planted, but guys are getting pretty excited. There's been a lot of spotty rain around, even in the dry areas. Reporting here from the middle of the Texas Panhandle, there's about every night there's rains around. Just depending on what guys' habits are, whether they're living right, if they're going to get a rain or not. Oklahoma Panhandle has gotten rain. They never get rain. But no man's land up there has gotten some nice rains. You get into the drier parts of Oklahoma, in western Oklahoma, they've had good rains through there, and those guys are chomping at the bit to get their wheat in the ground, and there's going to be enough sub-moisture to get things going. Now, if it doesn't turn completely off like it did last year, Amarillo, Texas had the wettest August in the history of record keeping. We haven't had anything like that. But as soon as that August was over, it shut off just like a faucet, and guys were all excited. They got their corn in, it barely broke ground, and then just died. But they're hoping for a better year this year. Guys are getting excited about the wheat prospects of grazing all over Oklahoma, all over the southern half of Kansas. Guys are looking for calves. They're afraid that they're going to get higher because we know that we've been whittling down on our heifers. Been a lot of heifers fed. There's been a lot of cows slaughtered, and the calf market is looking really good going into fall, and that's when it needs to be good. But let's look at your feeder market. Your real-time index on Beef Market Central down another $1. Remember how high it was on Friday? It was way up there, way over $1.50. But your Monday sales and now your Tuesday sales have really pulled that back. There hasn't been any. Philip was pretty good on Tuesday, of course, but not a lot of those Sandhill sales to really boost that index level. But 147.32, still not too bad, but it's sure off of what it was late last week. Let's look at some of your on-site feeder cattle auctions. OKC West had their calf sale. Light run of calves, only 1,500 head there, as some of your earlier week sales were lower, and that made guys hold them back. But a light test and a lower undertone on the calf sale at OKC West, but they'll have a good run of yearlings on Wednesday here. Fredonia, Kansas, getting to be one of the hottest sales in Kansas, one of the hottest sales in your whole plains there. But a lot of good things happening at Fredonia, Kansas, southeast Kansas, and they're pulling cattle from a long ways away. Guys had another good sale near 2,000 head there, but it was sure lower. They had a lot of strings of cattle, but they had more of their better strings of cattle last week, and that's when those farmer feeders were in there, and a lot of those solid black cattle, more square made English type cattle. They had some good cattle this week, but a lot more commodity type cattle, which they get both kinds and they can sell them all. But look at all these strings of cattle out of Fredonia, Kansas. These are load lots and bigger just on steers, guys. They had a lot of heifers too, but included in these load lots, set of really good cattle, 121 head of 768 pound steers at 158 1/4. That'd be pretty handy right there. But also just some commodity type cattle, a bigger string of cattle, 229 head of steers weigh 807 at 144.50. And you go straight west out of there, and there's plenty of feedlots that'd like to have those cattle right there. But look at a couple of other individual quotes. Let's go up to my friends John Anderson, Frank Hepker there at Clarinda, Iowa. Used to be at Maryville, Missouri, but went up there doing their own thing and sure making it work. 83 head of calves weighing 556 pounds at 182 in Clarinda, Iowa, which was southwest Iowa there. And then Philip the Giant's back. Philip going to be having big sales here all fall and into the winter. Just getting going good here. Philip, South Dakota, sold 60 head of big steers, weighed 905 pounds at 151.75. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.